Hi, I'm Alison Jones. Welcome to World Changing Writers. It's day one, and today we're focusing on writing. And after that fantastic keynote introduction from Michael E. Gerber, I'm very pleased to introduce Caroline Ferguson, who's one of the UK's top mindset trainers. And she's going to kick us off with some thoughts on what it means to have a world changing mindset. So, really, really fundamental thoughts about where we kick this whole process off. So, welcome, Caroline.
Thank you very much, Alison. I'm really pleased to be here.
It's great to have you here. And I'm going to start, if that's okay, with the question that I'll be asking everybody over the course of the summit, which is, which book changed your world and why?
Well, I happen to have it right here, and it is this book. It is Cognitive, can you see it? Cognitive
Behavioural Therapy.
Therapy by Avi Joseph. And I'm actually willing to bet that I'm the only speaker whose life was changed by buying a book, not by reading it. I've been working as a freelance business communications consultant for about 20 years before I did what I do now. And I didn't really enjoy the work or the corporate environment, to be honest, but I could do it standing on my head. And it gave me the freedom between contracts to tackle my real passion, which was actually writing fiction and screenplays. But as anyone who says, anyone who says that screenwriters earn a fortune, there's clearly never been one. The writing was going reasonably well. Screenplays are winning awards and being optioned, but I kept running out of money and having to go back to the corporate world, which is just hugely frustrating. So I did this for, I don't know, years. And then I woke up one birthday and I just had one of those moments. I realized that I was spending 2/3 of my time doing something I hated, where I didn't feel I was achieving anything of lasting value at all. So I had this really strong feeling of wanting to do something worthwhile, something that would change people's lives and my life. And that was really my road to Damascus moment. I decided right there on my birthday that the second half of my life was going to be about the value I could give and the value I could get back from giving. And I hadn't a clue what that was going to look like, but I had this really strong gut instinct that the right thing was going to come along. So a month or two later, my mother actually had a breakdown and I was managing her care. And part of her treatment was this course of CBT. And I'd heard of it, but I didn't know much about it. So being a bit of a research junkie, I went onto Amazon and I bought a book. And the book that caught my eye was Avi's book. And I realized that the name of the writer was familiar. And Avi Joseph was somebody that 15 years ago I went to see this hypnotherapist in London. And my excuse for going was that I had writer's block. But really, I just wanted to know what it was like to be hypnotized. It was an amazingly positive experience. I haven't really given it much thought since then. And when I saw his book on Amazon, I Googled him and discovered he kind of turned into God. He'd become this massive person in hypnosis and really developed into the CBT world. And he'd set up something called the London College of Cognitive Behavioural Therapies. And I just thought, that's interesting, but no more than that. Anyway, I bought the book. So no more about it. And then the next morning, I remember this so clearly, 7:16 in the morning, I wake up absolutely convinced and full of excitement and energy and joy and this absolute certainty that what I'm supposed to do with my life, getting that value, giving that value, is going to Avi's college and becoming a therapist.
Just to be clear, this is before you've read the book, right?
Yeah, this is actually, just looking at this book, but I understand now that I know more about mindset, I know what happened, is that, I'd been looking for dots to join. And my unconscious mind was working on this all the time, was actually looking for something for me to do because I had laid down the gauntlet on my birthday. I have to do something. I want to do something that is about the value I give and the value that I get. And as I say, I didn't know what that was going to be, but my mind just took all the information, took that challenge. And when I found this college, that was it. It just, everything fell into place for me, not consciously. It was completely unconscious, actually. But I woke up completely convinced. And when I had my intake interview at the college, I said, I am conscious that psychotic people make decisions like this, life-changing decisions. And bless her, one of the senior tutors, she said to me, yes, but so do people who found out what's right for them. And the fact that you're able to make that decision so completely and so wholeheartedly, and 2 months later, you still feel like that is a really good thing. And I've never looked back. And it's really been just the most instructive and the most life-changing journey for me, learning how to think in a healthy and flexible and rational way. And now I just couldn't wait to teach other people how to do it. So I just really, I have to say, Avi, thank you so much. It's been amazing, and I absolutely love what I do now. Thanks to buying this book, which I
And
have now read.
you have now read.
I've now read it. Yeah.
And what a lovely illustration of the power of just the idea of the book and the reputation of the author and that sense of connection. Amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, that's an unusual answer. Thank you. It's going to be a hard one to beat.
Pleasure.
So let's come to that idea of world changingness. We, you and I have talked a little bit about this phrase, and I think it's very deliberately provocative. It's quite an exciting phrase, but it's also, I've heard people say it's quite a daunting phrase. So that world-changing mindset, what would you say to somebody who feels a little bit daunted by the idea?
Well, it is provocative, and I'm kind of laughing because, yes, you and I have had this conversation a few months ago. But I really think its time has come, this idea of wanting to change the world. A couple of years ago, I moved across from the world of therapy to really become a mindset trainer to entrepreneurs and business leaders because I realized that the impact I want to make is in helping other people to make their impact. And so many of my clients come to me because they just can't ignore any longer this huge hunger to be of value and to have a positive impact on human beings and on our planet. And that's pretty much what I was talking about a moment ago with my Road to Damascus moment, that intense desire to have a positive impact. And I think we need to own it. It's time to just get grown up and own that desire to do something good for us and for our planet. And so I think, yes, it is provocative, but congratulations for actually having the courage to go for it because it is incredibly important. And the paradigm is definitely shifting. There is this noticeable move now, I think, taking place away from the kind of capitalism of the last 30 years and towards a much more accountable way of living. And it's about cooperation, isn't it? And collaboration rather than pure competition and profit. And it's also about responsible citizenship. And there's this big emphasis on energy and creativity and connection to source and all of that. So I think for all of those reasons, this is such a great time to be doing this, Alison. And, congratulations for really grasping that metal there, because so many people that I'm meeting are leaving the safety of jobs to do something they feel passionate about. And the online business world is burgeoning with this fantastic energy from all these people who've taken their courage in their hands and they're struggling through the newness and the overwhelm and the uncertainty, but they're delivering their expertise and their unique gifts and their ideas and their talents to the world. So it is about changing the world. And 20 years ago, I think if you told people that you wanted to change the world, they'd have thought you were taking too much ecstasy. But now it's a conversation that is taking place in pockets all around us. And it's gathering momentum. And I just couldn't be happier that people feel called to write a world-changing book.
It's so true, isn't it? I can just imagine, my grandma's reaction would have been, who do you think you are?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's very, very important that sense of collaboration and connection and giving
Yes.
underpins it. So it's not about, what this book can do for you, or well, maybe it is partly about what this book can do for you, but it's at least as much about what this book can do for the world and for the people who read it.
And it is actually your duty. If you have it in you, it's your duty to get it out and to go out there and help people. That's why you're doing it.
Fantastic. That's a great way to kick off the whole session. Fabulous. So let's talk about mindset. What is mindset? How does this thing work?
Well, I think, no, actually, let me rephrase that. I know that mindset is 42. And if you've read Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you'll know that 42 is the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. And mindset, I believe, is everything. So essentially, mindset is your beliefs plus your attitude. So your whole approach to the world is based on your beliefs plus your attitude. And the reason mindset is so important is because your thoughts create your reality. And that is so important. I'm going to say it again. Your thoughts create your reality. So how you think, your life equals how you think. So there's no such thing as objective reality. Your reality is different from mine. It's completely subjective. And your reality is colored really by everything that's ever happened to you, the conclusions, the assumptions, the observations, the inferences that you've ever made about all of those experiences. And the most important thing I teach my mindset training clients is that it isn't what happens that winds us up. it's our beliefs about what's happening. And that's not new. I mean, Stoic philosophers, Epictetus was saying that 2000 years ago. It's not the event that disturbs us as much as our view of the event. So that is all about mindset. Your view of the event is about mindset. So that's actually really, really good news, because if our thoughts and our emotions and our behavior were really determined by things, outside our control, we wouldn't be able to change how we respond in difficult situations. We wouldn't be able to actually overcome those situations. But the way you think does determine how you feel emotionally, and it does determine how you behave. And that's really where feelings come from, actually, with thoughts. There's absolute proof that it's it's your thoughts that drive your emotions and your behavior. When difficult stuff happens, it is appropriate to feel bad. But the way that you feel bad, whether that's a really stuck, inflexible, unhappy, irrational kind of bad, or whether it's a healthy and flexible and normal and appropriate kind of bad, is really up to you and what you're thinking. No two people's reactions are going to be exactly the same. So I think, we all know people who have this amazing resilience and a positive outlook. They get things done. And when the storm hits, they don't break. They bend with the wind, and then they pick themselves back up and carry on. And equally, we know people who are afraid of change, or who procrastinate endlessly and, won't start something because they have to do it perfectly, which is a common one with writers, actually, holding ourselves back. I want to be able to write the best book I can write, and until I know I can do that, I can't get started. So I'm just going to edit this sentence for the rest of my life.
Because it's safe.
And speaking as a writer, I've been through all of this. So, so it just depends on the thoughts that are behind that. And as I say, it is such good news, because we can change that. That is within our gift. If it was something that was happening outside of us, we couldn't change it. But because it's within us, we can change it. So, it matters. Our reality is created by the way we think. It really matters.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think for a lot of people, that separation isn't visible. It feels as though how we feel and what we perceive is objective reality. How can we become better at identifying our own mindset?
Well, it starts with tuning in, which sounds simple in theory, but it can be harder than it sounds. Each of us has around 20 to 70,000 thoughts a day in this constant stream of burble that we call our self-talk. And I refer to it as your inner radio. And most of it comes from your unconscious mind. But because it's unconscious, it's automatic, and you're largely unaware of it. It just goes on all the time, burble, burble, burble. So learning to tune into your inner radio, especially when you're facing a challenging situation, I think is one of the most valuable life skills that you can learn. And the reason why is because when something is unconscious and automatic, as most of our self-talk is, self-talk, bad habits, they're all stored in our unconscious mind. When it's automatic, it's not within our awareness, so we can't do anything about it. But as soon as you pay attention to your thoughts, you make them conscious. You take them off autopilot, out of your unconscious mind, and you stick it right here in front of mind. And then you are in control. You have your hands back on the wheel, and you have a choice about how to think. But it's about learning to listen, to tune in. So I'd say really the most useful skill you can learn is to develop that habit of consciously listening to your inner radio. And I advise people, wear a rubber band around your wrist, put one of those stretchy bracelets on. I've got one of these magnets, silicon magnets, and I still do this from time to time. Ping it regularly to remind yourself to listen into your thoughts. Make a note what you're saying to yourself, how you're saying it. What's the tone of voice that you're using? Are you scolding yourself? Are you supportive? Are you kind of, marshalling yourself? Are your thoughts resilient, or are they, God, I can't cope, this is so hard? So tune in, listen to what you're saying and how you're saying it. And frankly, if you don't like the song that your inner radio is playing, being aware means that you can change to a more helpful station. You can retune your inner radio.
So being just aware of what it is you're saying, being aware of the thoughts that are permeating how you and creating how you feel is the first step. What are the sorts of ways of thinking? What are the mindsets that can really hold us back?
Well, everyone's different, of course, but there are certain themes that emerge over and over again. And over the last few years, through working with clients, I've really sort of pinned them down to 5 common ways in which we tend to wind ourselves up. And it's really helpful to have a system to help you remember these things. So I've come up with this anagram, which anyone who's worked with me will know. It's PACES. It's called PACES, and I call it walking yourself through your paces. So that's fairly easy to remember. And when you feel generally stuck, this is kind of big, it can be quite hard to work out how to get moving again. And being aware of your paces hotspots is really helpful because it can help you to get clearer on what's keeping you stuck. When you know where the problem's coming from, it's just much easier to deal with it. So the good thing about paces is that most people can fairly easily see, actually, oh yeah, that's me, and oh yeah, I recognize that one. That's me as well. And I should say that we all tend to experience all 5, but we do tend to have our favorites. So I'm just going to talk through paces, and basically, I don't know if you can see this, but it is, can you see that? Paces.
Down a bit. Hey, we can see that.
Okay, so just in case anyone's wondering how that's spelled.
I love our high-tech visual aid, this is great.
Yes, exactly. It's what I scribbled earlier. So P stands for perfectionism. And as far as writers are concerned, perfectionism is going to get many a writer stuck and being unable to get to get beyond that editing phase, to get beyond the blank page, because we have all sorts of demands that are going through our heads. And the thing about these paces is that all of the thoughts behind them that keep us stuck are based around demands. So with perfectionism, we're going to be, I must do well, I mustn't fail, I have to do this perfectly or appear to be perfect, and I have to do it better than other people, and people mustn't think I'm a failure, I mustn't be not good enough. Those are the sorts of unconscious demands we're making when we are perfectionists. And of course, what happens is there's no plan B there. I've got to be good enough or else. And the or else is it's really bad, I can't really cope, and I'm rubbish. So that's not a great start if for perfectionists. There's just no plan B. And plan B is accepting that we want to be good at things, but the world doesn't have to give that to us. We don't have to always deliver this impeccable performance. And when we accept that, we can be more compassionate with ourselves, and we're not going to get stuck, because we can start looking at, okay, given that I really want to do this well and I don't feel I can right now, what's the best outcome and what can I do to help achieve that? So it's about forward momentum, and accepting that we may not have our demands met is going to be really helpful in helping us to keep moving forward. So yeah, P for perfectionism. And then we've got A, which stands for a desire for approval. And that one for writers is going to be, we want people to like us, we want people to appreciate our work, and it can be paralyzing actually to our courage if we don't believe that people will pay attention to us or like us or respect us. So again, identifying what the demands sound like, attached to approval, they're going to be things like, I need to know they like me, they mustn't disrespect me, I mustn't let people down, they've got to think well of me, I have to impress people, I mustn't upset them. All of those, and I have to say that that's particularly hardwired into women, because of the way that the brain develops in the womb. We are, our communication centers, we are programmed to look outside ourselves for validation. And part of the mindset work that I do with my clients is helping them to get that validation from inside. So, when we've got those sorts of demands, it can paralyze us and it can stop us from actually putting ourselves out there because we're worried about what people will think.
I have to say, it's very interesting, actually, when I'm working with authors, one of the most crucial points for them, I don't count somehow, they can talk to me, but as soon as they send part of the manuscript out to somebody else to review, that is an absolutely terrifying moment.
Yes, absolute panic and fear, anxiety. Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. So this whole idea of, the world-changing writer really taps into this basic fear we have that we might not be good enough. Yeah. People might not think we're good enough. So A for approval. And then we've got C in paces is, and this is one that used to bite me quite regularly, and occasionally still does, but I know how to shut it up now, is our need for certainty. You know, we want to know how it ends. We want to know how things turn out, that it's all going to be okay. I have to know how to do this. I need to know how it turns out. This has to work out the way I want it to. I have to have all the facts before I start. I need to know all the building blocks and the order they go in. I mustn't feel unsure. I have to have it all worked out, because otherwise it's really bad. I can't cope, and it means I'm not good enough. So this need for certainty that, you know, a lot of us have to a greater or lesser extent. With some people, it can be, you know, it can really get in the way. So what are you demanding? If you feel really uncomfortable when you're writing, what are you demanding in terms of what you need to be sure of? And then accept that actually you would like to be sure, you would like to have that certainty, but the world does not have to give it to you. You don't have to be sure. And yes, it might feel bad, it might feel difficult, but you can cope, and it doesn't mean you're not good enough. It just means you're human. It just means you're normal. It just means you're fallible like the rest of us. So it helps you to be compassionate towards yourself when you understand where these problems are coming from. Then we've got E, the E in PACES is ease. We don't like life being difficult. We don't like it being painful. So the kind of demands we have there is it mustn't be hard. It has to be simple and easy. I need to know it's not going to be painful. I have to feel I can cope. It mustn't be uncomfortable. And, you know, when you can see particularly small children sometimes have this terrible need for it to be simple and easy, because if it's difficult, oh my goodness, you know, tantrums. And a lot of writers I know as well have a little bit of that. And I think it was it the journalist Jean Fowler, I think it is, who there's that fantastic quote about writing, you know, it's just not easy writing. And you think he said something like, writing is easy. You just sit staring at a blank sheet of paper until
you bleed.
Drops of blood form on your forehead. So actually, if you're going to really get your message out to the world by writing it down, you have to be able to tolerate difficulty. You really need to be able to be resilient. So if you know that you have a thing where you desire ease, then a little bit of work around that is going to help.
One of my favourite quotes about writing is, easy writing is damn hard reading.
And then there's another one which is, it's easy writing. You just open a vein and bleed all over the page. I was about to tell a story about a screenwriter, but I won't. This isn't the time for it. But we probably don't have time for that story. But anyway, the highest paid screenwriters in the world also go through this.
That's comforting to know, isn't it?
They do. You should go to a screenwriters conference. It's entirely about self-loathing. And we're talking Oscar winners here. So anyway, writers unite. Yes. So the last one of the PACES, the S, stands for self-rule. And self-rule is about two things. It's about autonomy, which is, don't tell me what to do. You mustn't get in my way. I have to do it when I'm ready to do it. I have to do it in my own time when I decide. I have to work without interference. So it's about that autonomy, but it's also about identity and about how we see ourselves and our desire that the world sees us in that way as well. You know, I'm an expert. I need you to see me as an expert as well. So I must choose my own identity. You must see me in a certain way. So that whole self-rule, again, can get in the way, because we can convince ourselves that, you know, we have to be seen in this certain way, and we have to be able to do things in our own way, in our own time. And actually, that's not how you write. It's not how you get stuff written. You get stuff written by doing it, not by deciding you'll do it when you feel good and ready. So those are the 5 PACES. I'll just run through them again. There's perfectionism, our desire for approval, our need for certainty, our terrible need for life to be easy, and our desire for self-rule. And those are the sort of 5 main areas that we have all sorts of demands that we build around those areas that we allow to get in our way. And they have consequences. You know, when we have beliefs like that, they have consequences in terms of how they make us think, how they make us feel emotionally, and what they make us do or not do. You know, avoidance is a behavior. When we're trying to write, it can be a consequence of us holding beliefs. So those really are the 5 ways that I believe we hold ourselves back.
And I'm sure I'm not the only one sitting here going, yep, tick, 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 tick. So, and it's really interesting to see them just all set out like that. And I think we probably they all resonate with us. So how do we move forward? How do we go beyond that? How do we find a more helpful mindset that allows us to do the changing of the world that needs to be done?
Well, as I mentioned a little while ago when we were talking about how we become more aware of our mindset, the first step is really to tune into your inner radio and acknowledge what's actually going on up there, especially when you feel challenged or when you're facing something tricky, or when you're psyching yourself up to do something significant like writing a book. For most people, writing a book is a monumental task, and it's a hugely challenging psychological thing to approach because it's not something that most people have ever done before. And also getting your expertise out into the world for the first time, putting yourself out there, exposing yourself like that, they're big scary things. So really it's get tuned in to what's going on, acknowledge these fears, acknowledge what your demands might be around your paces. What beliefs do you hold about the task of writing and about your ability to do it? And how are your beliefs supporting you or limiting you? So step one, tune in. And I would say that step two is once you've identified an unhelpful belief like, I have to do it perfectly, or this is going to be really hard, assess it and challenge it. So first of all, assess it by asking which of my pace's hotspots is being triggered here. Is this my desire to do it perfectly, my need for people to like it and to like me, or my desire for certainty to know it's all going to turn out all right, or whether it's going to be easy or not, or whether I'm going to be able to do it myself. Which of the pace's hotspots is being triggered? And once you analyze where it's coming from, challenge it. And really challenging it is about looking for evidence to say whether that belief has got any validity at all. So where's the cast iron proof that supports that thought? Thoughts are just things. They're not truths, they're just subjective things. They're beliefs based on everything that's ever happened to us and the assumptions we've made about those things. They're just things. So where is the evidence to support that thought, that belief? Is it rational? Is it logical? Does it naturally follow from, the laws of the universe? Or is it just something we've invented, some story that we're hanging on to? And then ask yourself, is it helpful to think this way? Is it actually going to lead me to the outcome that I want, which is to write this world-changing book? Is me believing that I've got to do it perfectly really going to help me to get it out there? So what evidence do you have that that belief is actually correct and rational and helpful? So that's step two, really. Once you've tuned in, analyze your belief to work out where it's coming from, then challenge it. Challenge that mindset. Is there evidence? Is it logical? Is it helpful? And then I would say that step three is to decide on the best outcome. So what is it that you actually want to achieve? And do that in a lot of detail. Really, there's loads of great visualization exercises out there. So have a think about exactly what the best outcome for you is. And then commit to that outcome. Because wanting to do it, intending to do it, rather liking to do it, feeling you should do it, none of those things is a commitment. So actually decide on your outcome, commit to it, and then create a plan that's going to take you there. Because that is going to provide your mind with the cast iron proof that it needs that you're going in the right direction. And this is something that is worth investing your energy in. And then the final step is do it. Once you've worked out what your resistance is, once you have challenged it, analyzed it and challenged it, once you have created the outcome that you want, visualized the outcome you want, committed to it, and you've got a plan, then take an action. Just take one action right now and you're on the path to doing it. So I would say, those 4 steps are going to be really helpful for people who are feeling this resistance and want to be able to develop the mindset to help them with this amazing task of getting a world-changing book out there.
And what I love about when you've given us as the PACES framework is as soon as you start naming the feeling and the thought that you're having, in a sense you dissociate from it, don't you? And it loses something of its power because you see it for what it is. It's just a thought.
Exactly. And also what I would really say is, sit with it. Don't push it away. If you're feeling uncomfortable, allow it. Because when you actually take this sort of nebulous feeling of, this is difficult, this feels challenging, I'm not sure I'm good enough, and you sit with it and you challenge it, it doesn't have any legs, and it just sort of goes away. It loses its edge, and then you have expanded your comfort zone. You've actually broadened and deepened your resources and your resilience. So the next time you run up against that thing, it's going to be much easier to dismiss it, and eventually it won't bite you at all.
So true, isn't it? I think very often we don't like feeling the painful feelings, and therefore we try and push them away. But actually, as you say, sitting with them and addressing them, it's going to be much more powerful.
Yes.
And those difficult feelings, the challenges that you face as a writer, they're going to change as you go through the journey. I mean, over the course of the 3 days of this summit, we're looking at 3 streams: writing, publishing, and promoting. And each of those, I think, probably require very different mindsets and will throw up different challenges. How can this mindset thinking help us through that sequence, do you think?
Well, I think one of the keys is one of the bits I mentioned in that 4-step plan just now for dealing with resistance, and that is actually to know what your desired outcome is from that part of the process. So, for example, if you're in the writing phase or in the researching phase or whatever, what's the outcome you want from researching? Okay, it's to have all of your information ready and planned and in a great order and reference, so that when you start writing, you actually know what you're doing with it. If it's the writing process itself, the mindset that you need that's going to help you is where you are just absolutely focused on doing the task, on getting your words out there, on doing the writing. If you're at the the sales and marketing part of the process, then your mindset needs to be supporting you to actually get yourself out there, to be working with social media, to be following your marketing plan. So for each stage of the journey, yes, there's a mindset required, but mindset shifts all the time. And I would say the easiest way to work out what kind of frame of mind you need is to decide what the outcome is that you desire at any specific time, and challenge any of the thoughts that get in the way. So if you're really clear of the outcome that you want, then you're going to know much more. You're much more likely to be able to be thinking in an action-oriented way that actually helps you to deliver the outcome for that particular part of the process. But again, you use all of the tools that I've already been talking about. So PACE is to analyze anything that gets in the way, to know where any obstacles might be coming from. Tuning in, self-awareness all the time, deciding on the outcome, having a plan, and taking action. So all of that same process that you can use at any point. So that's why this is so flexible, why it works so well, that you don't need a different mindset. You just need to know how to adjust the way you think in order to deliver the outcome you want.
And it's very clear, isn't it? This is an ongoing practice that as you move through life, as you move through different situations, as you go from the writing to the publishing to the promoting, there will be different pain points, but the same tools for each one.
It's absolutely exactly the same. It is all about developing awareness of what's going on, because once you're aware, you have control. You put your hands back on the wheel and you can change whatever you need to change.
Fantastic. That was such a great way to start the session. I think really puts in context this sense of what it is that we're trying to achieve, and some really practical tools for how to do it.
Yes.
Now, I know that you very kindly put together an offer for delegate attendees. Would you like to just tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I've got just a little gift, actually. I spoke about paces, obviously, the ways in which we wind ourselves up. And I've put together a one-pager that just summarises those 5 ways and the typical kind of demands that might be getting in the way. And I've adapted that for the writer's mindset. And it's a really easy way to help you pinpoint your own reasons for procrastination, or for being afraid, or feeling not good enough, or feeling overwhelmed, or whatever the issue might be. And just to know where it's coming from. When you know, it's so much easier to fix it, rather than just feeling this general sense of, oh my gosh, I don't know how to tackle this. So the web address it's my website, www.carolineferguson.com, with a /WCW for World Changing Writers at the end. So that's carolineferguson.com /WCW. So just go on there, fling your email address at me, and and I'll send that straight off to you.
Fantastic, and I'll put the link up on the World Changing Writers site as well, and just in case people didn't get that. And for the last question, Caroline, I'm going to ask you the question that I'm going to be asking everybody through the course of the summit as well. If you could just give one piece of advice to somebody who's aspiring to write a world-changing book, what would that be?
I would say make the commitment. It's starting with the way that you mean to carry on. It's deciding, okay, what is it I want to achieve? And then really committing to it. As I said earlier, thinking you ought to is not a commitment. Wanting to is not a commitment. Intending to is not a commitment. Definitely deciding to is not a commitment. Committing to it, having an action plan and taking action, that is a commitment. So really start with that. And there's never going to be a right time. The right time is, in most cases, is now. So give yourself permission to stop thinking about it and start doing it. And going through your paces, I think, will give you a good idea of why you might be stalling if you are. Acknowledge that discomfort. Tell yourself you're going to do it anyway. Just push through. Resist your resistance. And it circles back to what I was talking about at the beginning of this conversation, which is, giving yourself permission to be imperfect. You have a duty to get your word out to those who are in need of your skill, your wisdom, your inspiration. Yes, yours, all of you out there, yours. And just, can you hear that little voice going, yes, but, well, just go through that voice, push through that voice. It's you're resisting, your mindset is resisting you because of the fear. But actually there is no tiger in your cave. This is not a massively threatening situation. This is about something that is so exciting, and you are a world changer. So it is your duty. So tell the voice to kindly push off. There's a world out there that really needs changing, and you've got work to do. So make that commitment right now.
Fantastic. Great piece of advice. Thank you so much, Caroline.
It's my pleasure.
And next up today, we've got Anna Kiernan, who's going to be talking about storytelling for business. But let me say goodbye and thank you once again to Caroline for kicking us off in the best possible way. Goodbye.